So I've put together 10 easy steps to manage a mass victim incident. And the files were shared on Eventbrite. They're also, if you go on the left side after the presentation, you can find under files a handout on this. We'll make it available online as well. But for the for now, just continue watching and then we'll make sure you get the handout. Before you do anything, make sure the scene is safe. Step 0. Step 0 will always be make sure the scene is safe. You want to, as you're approaching the scene, observe all 6 sides. Front, back, left, right, above, and below. If you walk up on something and you can only see left and right of you, you don't know what's behind this incident, you're putting yourself in danger by not making sure that there is not some sort of raging fire or gas, green gas that's floating through the air behind it, or power lines that are down behind it. Same thing, know what you're on. If you're on a puddle of water and this bus crashed into a power pole, you're putting yourself at risk by not knowing that. Look above you. Are there dangling power lines? Is there a tree that this thing has just hit and that tree is threatening to come down on top of you? More importantly, or just as importantly, before you go in, make sure you have a plan to get out. If things go south, how are you going to get out of this situation? Are you going to go back the way you came? What if something comes up behind you? Is there another way out? If you're going into a building and there's only one way in or out, this is maybe not the best idea, because once you get in there and your entranceway now becomes blocked, that is not the time to have to figure out how to get out of that building.
Excuse me?
Yes.
There's a bar on the PowerPoint that's blocking B for me. Is it just me, or is everybody seeing like a bar across the PowerPoint? It has the timer. I don't know. It just
It's there. If you touch the screen, it goes away. Touch the screen with your cursor and it goes away.
Oh, you're talking about the bar, the control bar for Teams.
Correct. It's on my it's on right on the PowerPoint.
Yeah, if you click somewhere else on the screen or move the mouse away from the bar, it should clear after a few seconds.
Okay, thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now that the scene is safe, you've identified a safe way out of there. You made sure there's no impending danger, gas leak, radiation, chemical spills, whatever. Now you're going to figure out who needs help and who can I save. First is clear the people who don't need immediate help, the walking wounded. And again, you're going to yell out very loudly, very clearly, distinctly, something to the effect of, if you can hear the sound of my voice, come to me. Or come to the sound of my voice. Just something to give people direction. And when they do, make sure they're walking towards you and you're looking at them, assessing them, making sure they don't look like they are going to collapse anytime soon. Send them somewhere specific. Don't just say, go over there and wave your hand around some generalized area. Say, go over to that tree and stay there until we come and assess you. Again, also, see if you can put someone in charge of them. If you have someone, there's 5 people there and one person looks a little bit more together than the others, hey, I need you to take charge, make sure everybody stays over there. If anybody starts to go downhill or has any problems, come grab us. And then you two, you look like you can help us out. Can you stay with us? And we're going to go help your friends out. Second step is, now that you've eliminated the walking wounded, you've gotten them out of the area, out of the immediate incident, you're going to now determine who is immediate, delayed, or deceased. And if they are immediate, don't keep checking. Once you determine this person needs immediate medical attention, that's when you stop, you tag them red, and you move on. The first idea is, or the first thing is, how do we even begin this? And you start where you stand, and then come up with a plan to move methodically through the victims. If you're at the entrance of a room, figure out, okay, I'm going to go up this way and down this way, up this way, down this way, or I'm going to zigzag through, but have some sort of idea to orderly go through, because you don't want to come across the same victim twice and miss other people. And this is going to differ every single incident. You're going to have to on the fly decide what is the best way to move through this. When you come up to a victim, first thing you should do is introduce yourself. You're not a firefighter, you're not a police officer, you're not wearing a uniform that they recognize. So identify yourself. I'm a emergency response team member. I'm here to help you. That's going to tell you two things, one of two things. One, if the person responds to you and they're probably breathing and they have some sort of mental capacity, they're conscious if they respond to you. Second, you're going to ask them if you can help them. Say, I'm a community member, emergency room. Try not to stumble over the words. I'm a emergency responder. I'm here to help you. Can I help you? If they say no, then that's their choice. Move on. Don't argue with them. Don't say, sir, you're bleeding out of your leg and you're going to die in a minute. You don't have time for that. If it's the only person there, okay. But if there are 15 other victims and you spend 5 minutes arguing with this one person trying to convince them that they shouldn't let themselves die, you might have killed 2 other people. If they say yes verbally, they're obviously breathing, and you've just eliminated one of the things down the road that you're going to have to check. If they don't respond, now you know that they are possibly not breathing, and you're going to have to check that next. So what you want to do is quickly, you're going to look, listen, and feel. Put your ear next to their mouth, look at their chest, and you can put your hand on their chest and see if it rises and falls. If they are breathing but they're not conscious, they're immediate.
Patrick,
Anyone who's unconscious is immediate.
Patrick, question?
Yes. Yeah.
What if you have 2 people approach you? One is either carrying another or helping them get to you. Do you keep both of them at your right there? Or do you say to the person carrying the more injured person to let them, to leave them there and go to another area?
I'd keep them. They obviously want to help.
Okay.
So they're potential workers for you.
Okay. Okay.
But obviously the person who needs to be helped out of there, you need to assess them. So keep them safe. They're now where you stand. So you would probably assess that person first, and then quickly assess the people who are helping them out. Just quickly glance them over, make sure they're okay.
Okay.
So is that clear? If someone is unconscious but breathing, they are immediate. You do not have to check anything else. Don't pick up their hand and check their capillary refill. Don't try and talk to them because they didn't respond to you the first time and see if they can answer questions or do anything. Mark them red, move on. If they're not breathing, now is the time you're going to do attempt to open their airway. And it might be as simple as what's called a head tilt chin lift. You're going to, the tongue is a muscle that when it's relaxed, because you're unconscious or something else, can actually block your airway. You can't swallow your own tongue, but just by lifting the head, pushing down on the forehead and lifting the back of the neck, you can actually open the airway by moving the tongue out of the way. If they start breathing, great. But what likely is going to happen as soon as you let go, that tongue is going to move back into position and block the airway again. So if you can put something underneath the back of their neck to keep their airway open, or one of your helpers can keep this person's airway open manually until you can, or they can find something to put under the neck, you're going to save this person's life. If they're not breathing, they're dead. If on the first attempt you can't get them to start breathing spontaneously, Give it one more attempt. Let the head return to normal. Put your hand underneath the neck and lift it up and push on the back of the forehead a little bit, as in the picture here. And if they start breathing again, great. If not, mark them black and move on. You don't want to spend any more time with this person because we don't know what's wrong with them. We don't know why they're breathing. They could have fallen on something and it's penetrated their heart in the back, and you don't know until you do a full assessment. But if you spend 10 minutes here trying to get them to breathe, you just killed a few other people. If they start breathing again, they are immediate. We don't know why they stopped breathing, but they are currently unconscious. That means that they are immediate. There's no need to check anything else. Mark them red and move on to the next victim. That clear to everybody? This is a picture of the head tilt chin lift, and it's something you learn in first aid and more advanced medical, where you're pushing on the forehead to lift and tilt the neck back, lifting the neck up off the ground, and then you're not stabbing under the chin or into the soft palate under the chin, but you're lightly lifting up and trying to pull the jaw away to lift the tongue away from the airway. You might not need to go this far. Simply lifting the back of their neck and tilting their head back should hopefully be enough to get their airway open. And I apologize, my neighbor is doing construction and has a bandsaw or something going on in the background. The caveat to this, and this is not really a caveat, but I need to mention it, is this method of opening the airway is not approved for someone who has possible spinal trauma or head injury. But in the case of a disaster where this person is not breathing and they've been in a mass victim incident, you don't care. You don't care if they are suffering spinal damage. All you're caring about is that they're not breathing. If you walk away from this person because you didn't want to risk doing a head tilt chin lift, then they're dead. They're not breathing. So do what you can. Don't spend too much time. Don't agonize over, has this person been in some sort of incident that I need to care about their spinal integrity? Just do the head tilt, lift it up, see if they start breathing again. If they do, and you can keep the airway open, great. They're not dead. And then you can come back later and try and get them better help. If the person is responding and allows you to help, when you touch a person, always explain what you're doing. You're not a firefighter, you're not wearing turnouts, you're not a police officer, you're not wearing a uniform. They don't know who you are. And more importantly is they don't know what qualifications you have. And you don't want to touch somebody in a way that causes them to question your abilities and skills. And you don't want to touch a person in a way that causes them to panic. More importantly, or just as importantly, is the camera behind you that's recording you on someone's cell phone can't see what you're doing. So if you narrate exactly what you're doing, sir, I'm going to, I want to grab your hand and check your capillary refill. I'm just going to pinch down on your fingernail bed and check to see if the color returns to normal. Then they at least have an idea that you know what you're doing, and the video behind you has some sort of narration. I can't really stress that enough. In a lot of these drills, the people who are responding are dead silent. And for someone who's just been in a traumatic injury or an accident, they don't know what's going on, and you have some random person probing them, touching them, poking them, whatever. It is not a good feeling. So try not to be silent. That's just creepy. If you're going up on someone, you're not asking for permission, you just start touching them, that's going to get you in trouble. I hope that's clear. When you, bandsaw is really annoying. You want to observe the person's breathing. You've already checked, they've given you permission, to assess them, their breathing. Now's the time you're going to see if they're breathing too fast or too slow. And really honestly, as you're walking up, you should be noticing this. And again, you're not going to be counting if the person is really breathing 28 breaths a minute or is it 30. You're just visually assessing this person looks like they're breathing way too fast or way too slow. If they're breathing normally, you move on to the next test. If they're breathing abnormally, again, too fast or way too slow, mark them as red and continue on. If they passed that step, they're breathing normally, now you want to check their skin perfusion. And this is going to tell you if they're in shock or not. If they're in shock, the blood has been pulled away or the blood pressure has been pulled away from the extremities. And when you do a capillary refill test, the blood is not going to return as quickly as it should. To do that, you're going to pinch the nail bed. And I wish, I don't know if you can see me or not, but on most people, if you pinch, say, the thumb, the fingernail of the thumb, and let go, it turns white very briefly and then returns to normal color. This should happen within 2 seconds. If it's 3 seconds or any longer than that, that person has a medical emergency and needs to be marked as red. Now the question is, what happens if they're wearing fingernail polish, or for some reason you can't tell, or they're missing a limb, what their skin perfusion is? You can touch the palm. If you push down in the center of the palm, it will turn white and then should turn to normal color again. The lip as well, and this is where it gets very dicey, is sir, I need to check your skin perfusion. I'm going to pinch down on your lip and let go just to check that. Is that okay? If they give you an assent, nod, or say yes, go ahead and do that. Don't just reach up and pinch their lip. You might get punched and get put on YouTube, which we don't want to have happen. If they if it takes longer than 2 seconds for the skin to return to normal color, then you want to go ahead and mark them as immediate or red and move on to the next victim. If the skin does turn to normal within 2 seconds, move on to the next test. Now you're going to ask someone to follow simple directions. And we want to caution, you don't want to ask questions that you don't know the answer to yourself. So if you ask the person what their name is and they read it off a name tag and say, I'm Bob, you don't know if their name is Bob or not. They don't know if their name is Bob or not, but the word Bob came to them and they said Bob. So that's not going to tell you anything. Same thing is, especially during this whole stay-at-home thing, a lot of us don't even know what day of the week it is. So if you ask somebody who's confused what day of the week it is, they might not know, but they might not have known anyway. So a lot of times what happens is if you walk up to someone and extend your hand to them, as in to shake hands, the instinctual thing is to reach back out and to shake your hand. That tells you that this person, at least mentally, is able to follow basic directions. Or you could say, can you look over there? Can you look over here? And can you look back towards me? That at least lets you know if they can follow those basic directions. If they don't seem mentally coherent, they can't follow simple directions, mark them as immediate and move on. If they can follow directions and they've already passed the last 2 tests, their skin perfusion is below 2 seconds or 2 seconds and less, and they're breathing normally, now is the time you mark them as delayed and then you move on. All of this should take between 30 and 60 seconds per victim. If you're spending more than 60 seconds on each victim, you're taking too long to do this. If they're not immediate, they're delayed. Is that clear to everybody?